Welcome back to Sports on Tap, live from Studio J, Brunswick, Ohio. Josh Jeffy throwing it back.
Oh, yeah.
Thuggish Ruggish, baby.
Whoa.
Wow.
Oh.
Cleveland, Ohio style right there.
Yeah.
You know it.
From Bone Thugs. Guys, welcome back. We're going to talk a little Cleveland Browns football now. We go from baseball to football. And
As you do.
Yeah, as we sometimes do. And actually, we're going to talk a little high school football coming up about our high school football coverage. That's in the next segment, which is pretty exciting. Got some new things coming on.
Good stuff.
For high school sports in our conferences that we covered. But, guys, the Cleveland Browns, there's been a lot of change, a lot of different things going on in Berea. You know, what are your guys' opinions so far right now? They get a new head coach, Hugh Jackson. The front office is pretty much turned over completely. It seems like there's a new attitude. You know, the Browns finally realized that Johnny Manziel wasn't going to work out.
Oof.
And, I mean, the one good thing, a while back, he did stop, his alcoholic
I think that's
binge.
enough talking about him. Let's
But
move on
You've,
to
you've
the
reached
future.
your limit. Yeah.
So,
the fact that we even mentioned him is we should probably. It's not fun.
well, yeah, it isn't fun. But, it took a lot to get rid of him, and now we have all kinds of different quarterbacks. We have running back competitions
We have
going
wide receivers.
on. A lot of wide
Lots of 'em.
receivers. And Chad Johnson is on the roster. I mean, he's not on the roster.
He's going to come in and help.
Yeah, he's going to come in and help for training camp, and then who knows if that will be extended
Here's the
past
thing
that.
with the Browns that is so different. They went through all these changes. They added all these players. They let some good players go. But what's really different is the fact that we and a lot of the local media really have not talked about them. And that has a lot to do with the Cavs winning a championship and the
I
Indians
was gonna
playing
say,
so
and why
well.
is that?
But it's actually kind of nice to actually have an off season that's been relatively quiet when it comes to the Browns. It seems like, hey, it's football now. It's just strictly football. Hugh Jackson's setting the tone of what he wants his team to do. And listen, I think we all are on the same page and know that this year's not going to be very successful. This is a quote-unquote building year. It's not a rebuilding year. It is a building year. That's what they need to do. Finally build the foundation, which this should have happened years and years ago, but it hasn't happened. And I'm looking forward to it and see where it goes. But the Browns have made some I think, good decisions starting with the coach. I think they did some good things in the draft. And let's see how it plays out.
I to kind of piggyback off what Josh said,
Yeah.
I like the idea. In recent years, it's been rah-rah, kind of selling almost like a bill of goods. Like, this team's going to do so good. We got Johnny Manziel. We got, whatever, whoever they brought in. And it's been like, oh, they're going to win 8 games this year. They're going 9 games this year. I don't see that with this regime. It's very, very much managed expectations. Hey, guys, we got better in the offseason. We got players we wanted. We targeted them in the draft. We picked some free agents up. We're building the kind of offense and defense we want to run, but it's a process, and it's going to take a time. And I think that's what I find the most interesting about this offseason. You mentioned it's quiet. It's quiet to the extent that we don't have the circus that Johnny Manziel brought.
It's football.
You're right. It's very much, hey, we're here to do a job. Let's do the job. What concerns me is that the only talk that when we do talk about the Browns is here's what we got, and what we got ain't good, because Robert Griffin III isn't exactly what he was when we drafted or when he was drafted. Then that leaves us to, okay, maybe Cody Kessler. Maybe he could be a good player, but he's not going to be ready day one. So it leaves us, McCown, who is a good wily veteran, but now, again, he's got receivers to throw to. So now are we going to run into that problem where Josh McCown can't make the throws that these receivers are running the routes to? Okay, that's a pretty good problem to have. Now we just need the quarterback with the arm. The defensive side, losing Desmond Bryant, huge. I don't care who you are.
It's a big move.
He's a huge part of the defense, and now you're requiring on one of those guys that you drafted or one of those younger guys to step up, and there's a learning curve there. And it's a massive learning curve because now you're playing against really good offensive linemen every week. Like, it's not there's no Appalachian State, there's no Middle Tennessee State University to warm up on and get your sea legs. You're dropped in and you're playing the Patriots, the Ravens, the Dolphins, all teams that are looking to play. The Jets. I mean, these are not. I mean, it's all professional caliber. So now that younger kid that has to take the place of a Desmond Bryant, who was so good last year in a really bad defense, one of the bright spots in a bad defense, is not there, and that takes a lot of production out of that defense, and it is concerning. But again, I like the idea of that it's managed expectations. Here are the problems. We're going to try and overcome them, but they are problems to deal with.
Right.
Well, here's the thing: this isn't anything we haven't already heard for the last 17 years. Every regime that comes in says the same thing.
Yep.
Now, is there reason to believe this is going to be different? Yeah, I think there is, because you have a very credible coach.
Blind faith.
Yeah, the blind faith has been huge, and obviously I'm jump into it too.
All right.
But the culture and the plan seems to be more set now than it has been in years past. We're going to go with young guys. We're going to draft a lot of guys at one position and then have them battle it out. We're going to bring competition in to push our older guys. Some of these guys that are older, especially those that are 30, and maybe on the back end of their contracts, maybe we're playing for another contract. They're actually going to have to play this year to get on the field. I have a feeling with Hugh Jackson, with the exception of the quarterback position, he's not going to play people who aren't the best at their position. The reason why I say that is because Robert Griffin III is the one they want to have play. That's who they signed. That's who Hugh believes he can bring back from the relics and revive his career. Josh McCown is probably the best quarterback on the roster for what the Browns need him to do. But is he going to play? Probably not. But what you do have in McCown is a very capable backup, which is what he is the best suited for. He's obviously not built to start an entire year. He played pretty well in spurts last year.
Oh, no doubt.
I thought he played a lot better this year than he did when he started in Tampa Bay, and won maybe one game and
Right.
And he just didn't have a good. He wasn't set for success last year any more than he is this year. So I like where they're going. They admittedly said, hey, we're going for a youth movement. We're getting rid of Dansby. We're getting rid of Whitner. We're getting rid of Hartline. All of our older guys, we're going to get rid of these guys. We're bringing some young guys in, young, hungry guys that need to prove themselves, and they're just going to go at it. And offensively, defensively, I think you're going to see plenty of competition at all the spots. No one really has, besides Joe Thomas, I think no one really has a safe bet as to where they're at. And they play a really tough schedule this year, and I think Browns fans know that they're not going to expect more than 4 or 5 wins this year. And we also can't forget that I think we're all going to give the Browns a little more slack because we got a championship.
Yeah.
We got our championship, and we're not relying on the Browns to do it because we can't.
Not right now.
We don't. The best player that we have on our team is the best player at his position. However, he cannot impact a game like our best player in another team can impact the game in his own way.
Well, and I think, too, the Browns now, unlike past years, definitely have a plan in place. I mean, in the draft, they collected a lot of high, valuable assets because I think they know, even though they won't admit it, but they know that it's, again, a building year. They're not going to be very good, so they're going to have to build through the draft. That's what they're finally doing. They're building through the draft. And the Browns did a surprising move, not drafting a quarterback with the second pick. They traded down to get more assets, and they did get a lot for that pick. And it's up to the new front office to hit on those picks. It's good that they have them, but now they have to complete by picking those players. Now, if the players that they do pick at those very high positions in the draft over the next 2 or 3 years do pan out, then you're going to have a really solid team in the future. It's just going to be a tough road to get there because over the past 17 years, this is how the team should have been built through the draft, but it hasn't been done like that due to various reasons: ownership changes, regime changes, coaching changes, and so on and so forth. We all know the story.
Dumb scouting.
So now it's up to not only Jimmy Haslam to stay the course, but it's up to
you mentioned that.
It's up to the front office to draft the good players, and it's up to the coaching staff to coach the players and build finally a culture that can sustain winning.
Well, I think ultimately what needs to happen is everyone in the organization needs to stay in their own lane and do their jobs. You shouldn't have Alex Shiner watching film with Mike Pettin the day after a game. That's completely asinine.
Right.
That's like, you need the people that are paid to do what their jobs are. Do what your job. Coaches tell their players that all the time. Do your job.
Stay in your
trust your teammates to do their job. Together we'll get through this. The same thing happens is true in the front office. You shouldn't have front office people overreaching and doing trying to do responsibilities they're not trained or they're not competent at doing. And I think we've had that for so long as an organization.
Well, we met Alex Shiner at a Strongsville Browns backers meeting, and he actually was there to get input or get opinions from Cleveland Browns fans. I mean, he was more on the business side of things, at least we thought he was, and all of a sudden he bounced back over into the football thing, or at least that's what the word was.
Yeah, I kind of look at that whole – I mean, I don't want to go down that road of Alex Shiner and all that, but I really feel like at the point when everyone said, oh, Alex Shiner is stepping over into football, it was already pretty much a garbage fire at that point. Like, when Alex Shiner's like – I'm sure Mike Pettin was in there and he just went in to watch film like, hey, what's going on? And someone said, oh, Shiner's in there with Pettin. Like, I think people make a mountain out of that particular molehill. I think the fact was there was a huge disconnect between Ray Farmer, Mike Pettin, Jimmy Haslam at a certain point that Alex Shiner was trying to be the intermediary, and at one maybe he probably just didn't do a good job of it. Or Haslam's like, you know what, clean sweep the whole thing. Alec, you did a great job on the business side, and he really did. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we see at First Energy Stadium now is a direct result of Alex Shiner and his team going in there and saying, what do you want to make the game day experience better? And I can say for my experience, it's heads and shoulders above where it was 5 years ago.
I
It's
agree.
a great – the stadium redesign was fantastic. There's a lot more fan experience. He did a fantastic job. He got out of – like you said, he got out of his lane and went over to football. But I think at that point it was like, I got to get this to the end of the season because we can't have a blow up like this. Now, what's interesting to me when I look at the Browns as a whole, I love Hugh Jackson's energy. Like when you see him out, like I saw a couple of YouTube clips when he's out there, he's not like Mike Pettin was very kind of reserved, very
stoic.
One word. He comes from that old school. Yeah, he comes from that old school. Like he only says something when he absolutely needs to. Hugh Jackson's not a rah-rah guy. He's a motivating guy.
I just think Mike Pettin didn't say anything because the players weren't listening to him.
Could be.
He was more buddy-buddy with the coaches.
Right. And Hugh Jackson's been around the league a lot longer.
Well,
I mean, Pettin was there as in that capacity, but Hugh Jackson's been a coordinator, a head coach, basically a GM in Oakland.
Well, look at exactly. That's a great point, Duff. Is Hugh Jackson is bringing NFL coaches to coach with him. Mm-hmm. Mike Pettin didn't have that luxury.
He brought his friends.
Which, I mean, if you're in his position, you're probably going to do the same thing. I mean, I can't imagine that Pettin didn't reach out to some more established people in the NFL and ask them to be on the staff.
Hell
They're probably
no.
like, yeah, I'm good. Let's see, offensive quality control coach of where I am at a winning team or offensive coordinator for the Browns. I will continue my duties here and not overreach.
At West Alcorn State University.
Well,
thanks.
but also to Ed's point, I mean, a lot of those coaches probably said, well, I'm a better fit at head coach than Pettin would be.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
You'd be
I'll
hard
give you
pressed to find that across the league outside of anyone who's currently in a head coaching position that would say, wow, Hugh Jackson doesn't know what he's doing or shouldn't be a head coach. A lot of people were like, wow, Hugh Jackson's not a head coach yet, given what he did with Andy Dalton. I mean, let's be honest. He turned Andy Dalton into a serviceable NFL quarterback.
Well, he led the Raiders to an 8-8 record. I mean,
with
After
Jason
tough
Campbell.
circumstances,
With
too,
Jason Campbell.
For half the season until the Browns hurt him.
yeah.
Well,
and let's remember back when the Browns hired this new front office. A lot of people, I shouldn't say everyone, that's casting a broad shadow, but a lot of people out there were kind of making fun of the Browns as they hire Harvard guys, and they didn't have a football guy. Well, Hugh Jackson is the football guy.
Yep.
He's the one running the show on the football side. Front office guys are doing the scouting, salary cap, all that good stuff. And they're working in tandem right now. We'll see where that goes in the future. But as of right now, everyone, I think, to Ed's point, has a clear lane of where they need to be. Jimmy Haslam's kind of staying out of the picture for now, letting the front office guys do their thing. And then Hugh Jackson is running the show on the football side. And that's a good sight to see so far.
Well, and the national media was talking about analytics playing a part in how Hugh Jackson won't go with that and
Totally
how they
overblown.
won't mesh and all that. And I think that pretty much got squashed after the draft. I really haven't heard anything about that very much.
But you can't really make a decision on that until a couple years down the road anyway.
Well, yeah.
I mean, because the analytics were used for the draft purposes, so you're not going to know until at least next year who you hit on. And really, if you look at it, maybe like a lot of people said Connor Cook coming out of Michigan State was a top 5 quarterback prospect. That guy was picked after Cody Kessler. They picked Cody Kessler after or before Connor Cook.
And Connor Cook's dad made everyone aware how dumb they were for not picking
Well, that's
him.
fine, but I mean, they're trying to say, well, you know, Kirk Cousins and another Michigan State quarterback I can't think of right now.
Brian Hoyer came from
Yeah,
there.
are good NFL quarterbacks. Well, that's great, but
They're serviceable.
Connor Cook was not even voted captain on his own team. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I'm not saying everyone says, oh, that's a dig against him. It is. You're the quarterback. You're the leader on the field. That's the most important position in the game of football. Sorry, it's the most important. And you're not the leader of that team? Come on now.
So what do you guys think of them getting rid of – I mean, there still are some veterans here, but maybe those veterans could have helped along some of these younger guys. I mean, do you think it was a mistake to let go Whitner or maybe a Brian Hartline since there's 4 rookies on the wide receiving core? There's 11 wide receivers on this team and 4 are rookies. A lot of the other guys have a few years' experience. You know, you have Taylor Gabriel has 3 years' experience. Andrew Hawkins has some experience. Marlon Moore is the other guy that has some experience, and Terrell Pryor, who's still trying to transition to wide receiver. Do you think some of these rookies might struggle not having a veteran to ask questions to or to understand maybe certain offenses or what to do there? Do you think they should have kept maybe some of those veterans to at least a training camp to try to guide some of these guys?
No.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say Carlos Dansby maybe, because that linebacker position is the quarterback of the defense essentially. So I can make an argument for Carlos Dansby, possibly Dante Whitner, given where they were. But the problem is that the older you get in the NFL, you're going to want more money. And I'm sorry to say the Browns are just not in the business of overpaying guys that can't produce. Brian Hartline got paid a lot of money to basically stand on the sidelines last year. I mean, he caught a handful of passes, and none of them were touchdowns. So I don't understand. Everyone was all up in arms about Brian Hartline. Yeah, I know he's an Ohio State guy. Same thing with Dante Whitner. But at a certain point, if you're not producing on the field, I can hire Chad Johnson, who's had multiple Pro Bowl seasons, for the young guys to ask questions to. You know what I mean? And that's what they did. They brought somebody in a coaching capacity. Why pay a guy to stand in uniform out there other than you can bring a guy that maybe wants to get into coaching? And Chad Johnson could be that guy. But again, Carlos Dansby was the one that I was like, maybe you could have held on to him. I mean, it wasn't like he was asking for the world, and he was pretty good last year in a bad defense. But maybe you just want to say, you know what, we need to cut ties with everything from the last 2 years because it had such a toxic feel to it, and that's a tough thing that's a tough realization for an organization to come to. So,
and Demario Davis actually is a linebacker that has about 5 years experience. But that's a good point. I mean, bring in Chad Johnson. He's now a coach. You're not probably paying him as much as you'd pay Brian Hartline, probably $4 million a year just to pretty much sit on your bench. So,
well, and here's where I wouldn't underestimate the fact that Josh McCown is still on the team, because he can not only help Cody Kessler and RG3 in quarterback, but he's been around.
Yep.
He can also help the receivers when it comes to knowing where to be, the window where they need to be at. And let's face it, Hugh Jackson, he's coaching. His coaches are coaching. Like, listening, you mentioned the YouTube videos and the videos on ClevelandBrowns.com. He's coaching. He's teaching. He's with these guys. And it's up to the young receivers to learn how to play. And competition hopefully will bring out the best of that. And there are still some veteran receivers on the team. But let's face it, those old guys on the team were not performing.
I can make an argument for Dansby.
Dansby was, yes, but it just didn't fit to where the Browns needed.
I think Dansby was more of a situation where we got lucky last year. He was so good, and they're at the point of diminishing returns with him. Just looking at the team, I think maybe last year was his last good year
Yeah, but they probably said that about him 5 years ago. And he continues.
But but playing in Arizona helps because they have such a world.
I think he's in Cincinnati.
The fountain of youth.
Yeah, he's with Cincinnati.
And you mentioned the loss of Desmond Bryant, and I'm hoping for the Browns defensively, for their sake, that with the new coaching staff, Ray Horton coming back, I think we're going to get a lot more, hopefully, production out of Paul Kruger, and that'll take some of the blow away that Desmond Bryant, his loss, will bring. I think Paul Kruger is really anxious to get back on there and prove that he can be an elite pass rusher like he was when the Browns signed him a few years ago.
And Xavier Cooper is at that defensive line position. John Hughes is there. Jamie Meter. That's where Carl Nassib, the rookie out of Penn State, will be playing. Danny Shelton.
I think Danny Shelton in the Ray Horton defense is a very intriguing option. Like, you got to look for, and I think that's what the front office and maybe even Jimmy Haslam's looking for. Like, hey, we know what it was last year. We know what the defense offense was last year. It was a train wreck.
Crap.
It was not fun to watch. It was not competitive at times, and it was inconsistent. I think what they're looking for and what you're going to see in the Hugh Jackson offense and even the Ray Horton defense, which is really, they're both cut from the same cloth. They're high-energy guys. They want to take it down the field, and they want to run at the quarterback. I think you're going to see a guy like Danny Shelton finally come into his own. I think you're going to see a guy like Xavier Cooper make a step up. I think Jamie Meter is going to be one of those guys that came out of nowhere.
Feeling good.
Not came out of nowhere, but wasn't a household name coming into this year. But with Desmond Bryant being out, his workload is going to increase. I think the linebackers are still a question mark in my opinion. I'm not sold on – I know Demario Davis is a good linebacker. The problem is I just don't know a lot about him. Secondary.
Who, Demario Davis?
Yeah, I mean
he came from the Jets,
I
think he had over 130-something tackles.
Soccer style kicker graduate.
Well, you're kind of nicknamed the Mule. The secondary is still going to be an issue. I think keeping them healthy.
Jamie Meter had 33 tackles. He's from Parma Heights, Ohio. Went to Ashland University.
Okay,
product of Valley Forge.
Ooh,
more specifically.
Meter has been pretty solid in the amount of time he's played. He hasn't been, he's not going to wow you with his unbelievable speed, but he makes tackles and he's pretty solid defensively.
He could be a guy like I'm trying to think of a guy that like a Merciless last year for the Texans. Had a great year because maybe someone else draws attention. I think if Demario Davis plays the way they want him to, and if Danny Shelton takes a step up the way I think he will, I think you could see a guy like Jamie Meter have a really good season and kind of come out of nowhere, and you could build on that going into next year. And I think that's what they're looking for. Manage, trackable improvement. What's the word? It's a business word they use all the time, but something they can track and point to.
You're the business guy.
So all right, we have 1 minute left. Quickly, what's one thing, with training camp coming up that you're looking forward to seeing? Is it a battle at the quarterback position, wide receivers, or, if you go to training camp, what are you guys going to focus in and kind of excited to see?
I want to see what the linebackers do. I want to see what they do with Barkevius Mingo. He bulked up a lot in the offseason. He should be. They say he's up to 250 pounds. I want to see how they're going to use him. Use him either as a pass rushing outside linebacker. See if he can drop into coverage, or maybe they even drop him back into maybe a strong safety type of role. Move him around a little bit. I mean he's athletically freakish athletic. See what he can do.
Josh Jeffy.
It all starts and ends with the quarterback. I'm looking to see how Hugh Jackson can coach up RG3 and see if we can get just a fraction of what he did just a few years ago. And if we can, that's good for us. I think for the short term.
I'm interested to see how the offensive and defensive line shake out, given the injury to Bryant, given the departure of Mack, where that offensive line kind of shuffles out. Is Cam Irving now the center going forward? Sounds like he is. Is Bitonio going to still be that anchor? Is Joe Thomas still going to be able to play the Pro Bowl caliber that he can? I mean, look, he's been in the league a lot longer than most people think. So it'd be interesting to see how those two, the trenches work out. I think that's going to be the storyline coming out. The quarterback is going to settle itself pretty quickly, I think.
One thing I'm interested to see with the quarterbacks is if RG3 really stinks, is Hugh Jackson still going to put him out there because he's RG3, or will he give Josh McCown the reins? I'm really interested to see that.
I think if he's healthy, you do it. He's the best athlete at that position right now.
You got to go the best quarterback that's going to give you a chance to win. We'll see what happens. All right, we're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. We're coming back with high school football, and our coverage is a little bit different. Pretty exciting stuff coming up, and we're going to be sharing that with you. Talk a little bit about the conferences we're going to cover moving forward, and much, much more. We're coming back. We're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network.